Hello, thank you, Teddy, Matt. Thanks for joining us live, and thank you for the folks that are tuning into the recording here. Oh, Teddy, there's a little bit of feedback. I'm just gonna mute. There we go. And anyone tuning into the recording, this is the first of our Zorakle Mastery Workshop series. So Zorakle is a really key tool that we have a very strong partnership with for both you as brokers and partnerships with our franchise partners. And it's all intended to make the process more thorough, more scientifically correct, and more efficient for everyone involved in analyzing your candidates, matching them with the best franchise concepts. So this series, we'll be looking at actual Zorakle assessments from brokers' real candidates. And joining us from the Zorakle team is their chief scientist and our friend Rebecca Monet. And familiar face for many of you who've been getting started with Zorakle and understanding the platform, David Koenig as well. And so we'll be joined by the experts looking at profiles to better understand this tool, better understand how you can apply it to your business to elevate your business, and how you can interpret these assessments you get back from your candidates to really understand what they're telling you and which brands those candidates are going to be the best fit for based on their scientific formula. So we're going to start off today with a little tour of the broker dashboard, so you can understand what that looks like if you're unfamiliar with Zorakle or you've just started kind of dipping your toes into it. This will kind of give you the full picture of the tool itself. And then we'll actually look at a couple assessments and Rebecca will go through and analyze those with us. So thanks everyone. And Rebecca, David, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the dashboard. And David, you jump in when I'm missing anything, if you don't mind.
You bet.
So basically, what you're going to see here is 7 different sciences reporting out on your prospective franchisee. So each broker will get a unique account, a unique link that identifies, and it will be branded with your colors and with your logo. So all reports will have your logo on it. The landing page will have your logo on it. And so it'll look like something that comes directly from you. So within the dashboard, you're going to be looking at a handful of places that I would recommend. Number one, where you can get your assessment links. This will be your primary link that you use, but you can also add links. Let's say you want to do some very specific marketing. Maybe you want to do a Facebook post, or you wrote a book and you want to put a link in there. You want to identify leads that come from there. You would just add a link that would identify that particular lead generation process that you're using. In your settings, there are several things you want to take a look at, including under broker organizations. Here you want to add the BAI organization so you can filter all of your prospects by BAI. So you'll see organizations that are a good fit for your candidate in the spot-on match. Another area you're going to want to take a look at is the system does a reminder. If somebody starts the assessment, doesn't finish it, it does regular reminders every couple of days where it nudges that prospective franchisee to complete their assessment. This is a new feature that I absolutely love because A, you can customize those emails so it says what you want it to say. There's some templates in here already, but most importantly, in our past system, you sent out a link, and if they didn't finish it, you wouldn't know. So now you're able to, the system will remind people, but you will also know if someone has completed that report or not. Which you'll find right here under spot on reports under completed. You'll see all the assessments that have been completed. And it includes the prospects report, which, as you know, is called the Business Builder profile. You'll find it under this tab, and you can see what they see. And just as a reminder, what the prospective franchisee sees is slightly different than what you see. You have an additional couple of pages that they don't see. So just a heads up regarding that. There are a few things that we don't share with the prospective franchisee. And then, of course, you can access your spot on profile right here through the dashboard by clicking on spot on profile, which then gives you the full spot on profile where all the sciences are in. And this is where you'll spend a lot of your time reviewing with your prospective franchisee. And finally, in this completed area, you'll see the spot on match. So the spot on match will match your candidate um, to franchisors wherein we have completed that franchisor's audit. We've assessed as many of those franchisees within that system as possible. We've generated a blueprint which shows the franchisor how the top, mid, and low performers may be similar or may be different. And then from there, they get a 80+ page report that shows them all of those details. Then a set of algorithms go in place where going forward, the franchisee can send a link, or in this case, you'll be sending a link and assessing, and you'll be able to bump your prospect up against these companies. So within here, there's just a little information on each of the franchisors. If this is a company, and David, help me here.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you're part of BAI, in everybody that is in BAI is automatically added to that. This demo is a generic demo, but once you are part, you see a BAI franchisor, they are trusted, and you can refer directly to the franchisor, and they get copies of all the reports, and they get an Eclipse report.
Yeah, and the Eclipse report that David mentioned is that side-by-side comparison where every marker they can see where their candidate scored in comparison to their high performance. So this will help you kind of narrow down some of the options that you have and make sure that our candidate is a good fit for these companies. And you can kind of see here, LA Bikini, Inexpress, Wild Birds, Alternative Board, all these are really good fits for this particular individual. So you'll spend a lot of time here. You can also sort by BAI and by category. So let's say someone is very interested in the category of business, let's say elder care, then all companies that we have done research on and looked at their franchisees will be right there within your dashboard. So you can see again, Homewell, Senior Care Authority is always an angel, all elder care companies that are a good fit for your candidate. Here's where you can find, and you want to kind of pay attention to this, guys, is this area that says in progress. Keep in mind, we are definitely sending reminders and it will show you, like in this case, Marguerite, she finished 11% of her assessment. So look, you maybe want to reach out to her. Obviously, we're going to do the same, but pay attention to this. These are folks that didn't get through the assessment completely. David, is there anything else I should highlight, or can
No,
we?
no, you did great. That's the entire system. It's super easy to use.
And just
The
kind
only
of
other
curious,
area, I'm
um,
sorry, Heath.
yeah, Rebecca, if you go back to like the brand matching, I'm just kind of curious what those different column categories, like how a broker should look at those, the culture, skills, like do you use that case by case where if like the brand's culture is really important to this one candidate you're working with, then you're going to want to focus on the brands with the higher culture score?
So what you're going to want to focus on is the overall column one here, overall fit.
Okay.
You want anything that's 90% plus our franchisors are going to love that, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
These other markers, the values, the stage of growth, the culture, the work style, and skills are their individual scores. In other words, this candidate was a 99% fit with that franchisor's set of values and the high
Okay.
performers.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are all good. Obviously, these are high scores. Their personality is exactly what we're looking for. They're fit within that franchisor's culture. Now, keep in mind, what that culture is different from company to company. You can see here with always an angel versus the alternative board, this candidate from a cultural perspective is only a 75% fit. But overall, they're 99.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes is because each of these markers are also weighted, meaning they'll have a bigger impact in some companies and less of an impact in other companies.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. For example, culture, when a company is small, is usually not well defined yet, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
still kind of evolving. So the weight of culture may not be as much as values or stage of growth or even the skills.
Okay. That's great.
Make sense? Anybody else have any questions about the dashboard itself and things that are within it? So in the support and training area, we'll be continually adding to this, but there's a series of training right in here. So check it occasionally as we add this, um, where you can learn all about the belonger, the emulator, the achiever, about splatter dots, about the individual stages of growth, about the individual cultural types, the individual work style or personality types, learn about how the competencies affect everything, and then, of course, the meta program. So we'll be adding to this, including case studies like what we're going to do today. We'll be adding to that. And of course, BAI has tons of training on your site too, where you can go through a
Yeah.
certification program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's do this. Let me go to a report that one of your brokers sent over. He's not able to be with us today, so um, hopefully we give him great information so he can work with this candidate. So Jason, this is for you, my friend. So within this tool, there are several different sciences, all of which you want to pay attention to and see how they kind of come together. This first page is sort of a summary or overview of who your candidate is. So when I look at this, I always look at the left side first. Left meaning left of this silhouette, in this case of a man. It could be a woman sometimes. Um, and these are all markers having to do with what makes somebody a good fit. So what are their values? Do they share that franchisor's values? What is their work style or personality? Is this a personality that's going to do well within this organization? Are they a good cultural fit? And do they fit within that franchisor's current stage of growth? And are they able to go through the growing pains of a franchisor as they grow to the next? So think of all of these markers to the left as things that will help you determine if someone is compatible. And that's always your number one priority. And then over to the right are what we call competencies and capacities. So competencies are the scores that are the highest for your candidate. This is where we want to really leverage those skills and find businesses that will do just that. And then below is capacity markers. What type of sales, if they have to do sales, are they going to be good at? What's their potential? Are they single unit, multi-unit individuals? How good are they at embracing the franchisor? So looking at this candidate, this is a belonger. And if you recall, a belonger is someone that values family and security and relationship. They're dependable, consistent individuals. They're sort of that traditional provide and protect guy or gal, right? They're a bit, if not a lot, risk averse. So these are folks that won't take a second mortgage out on their home to buy this business, right? They're not going to risk Johnny's educational fund to go in business. So these are your steady Eddie, salt of the earth people that are highly predictable in what they're going to be doing in their lives. They're structured around church and family and work, the ball game, those kinds of things. So when you're thinking of a belonger, that's what you want to think about. And you want to think about the businesses that are belonger like. That's going to be businesses that have proven historical success. So this is not going to be a smaller company. You're going to be looking for businesses that are going to long in the future be businesses that are always needed. You're going to be looking for businesses where we can take that relational part of this gentleman, Daniel is his name, and find a business that has a consumable product or service that is needed again and again, because belongers are really, really good at that. So those are all considerations. I'm going to show you a few more here in just a second. However,
is another way to put that, Rebecca, like risk averse? They really try to avoid any kind of risky emerging brand stuff. Really kind of that eliminates those from your options when you see that
yeah,
your candidate's a
yeah,
heavy belonger.
exactly. I would definitely call them risk averse, Heath. Um, this is just a concern they have. Their biggest fear is that they'll be separated from their family, that they'll do something that risks their safety and security, that they're in some way irresponsible. So
Mhm.
that's going to make them more cautious. It's also going to make them slower in their due diligence process.
Okay.
They may have another thing, they may choose to even keep their jobs. And of course, there are businesses that allow our franchisees to do just that.
So
So
Rebecca, would you almost automatically rule out any kind of retail concept that requires them to get a space and a lease and a security deposit and things of that nature? Would that automatically kind of be thrown off the table?
you know what, Matt, that's a really good point. Because they are conservative with their dollars, likely a retail business isn't going to be a first choice for them and tie them into that lease and the build out and all of those kinds of things. Unfortunately and fortunately, retail businesses are usually things they're good at, meaning any business where the franchisor is driving through their sales and marketing efforts business to them, and then that belonger will build that relationship and continue. But to your point, Matt, they're not likely going to take a risk on
Yeah,
doing that, even though they would be good at it.
like I think of a Pet Supplies Plus or something like that. That to me is that's a great brand.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if they're risk averse to that, it's hard to convince them of something like that.
yeah. Excellent point.
I think it
Agreed.
would also boil down to how much of their net worth is the investment of that retail business. If it's a really high net worth candidate and that's
Yeah,
pennies on the dollar,
yeah,
maybe that's a risk even a belonger is willing to take because it's not breaking their bank.
yeah.
But this candidate in particular, I think he has like 100,000 liquid. You can really eliminate a lot of those options just seeing that he wouldn't want to put all of his net worth into a retail business, which in my opinion is riskier than a lot of service brands. And kind of like Rebecca said, like businesses that'll be there 10 years from now, 20 years from now,
Yeah.
you can't bank on that with any retail brand, no matter how, strong it is. But there are service brands that provide to industries that are always going to be around. And
Right.
I think like recession resistant would really stick out to a belonger, probably just something that's firm and not going to be not going to waver depending on what the economy's doing.
Well, Heath,
Yeah.
they all tell you they're going to be here in 20 years, and they all tell you they all tell you
Right.
they're recession resistant, and also they can semi-absentee ownership. Every one of them.
Yeah. Well, in my
Yeah,
experience, retail come and go,
Yeah.
and service brands tend to stick around a little longer.
yeah. Your pest controls,
Mhm.
your home cleaning, things that are regular. Now, but I want to go back to Matt's point, because in this case, we're looking at a single value set, all
Right.
right? I'm going to come back to the splatter dots in a moment.
Mhm.
But Matt was asking, does this exclude retail? I want to show you something that you want to pay attention to, because he also has a high director and he's got a secondary of an achiever. So if we look at his wealth motto, it's controlling cash generating assets. So overall, a belonger, as Heath and I were saying, is not likely going to be comfortable risking things and probably not going to go in retail, but he's got this strong director side and a secondary of achiever, and he's got some pretty decent sales skills for a belonger, right?
Mhm.
Belongers don't usually have that. So his wealth motto is controlling cash generating assets. That could be real estate, right? That could be territory. That could be intellectual property. It could be some kind of human resources, employees that he in some way has exclusivity to. No other person is doing that in their marketplace. So it could be many different things, but what he's good at is he's good at controlling those assets and growing them. So this is why you kind of have to pay attention to all of these sciences. Belonger in and of itself are exactly what Heath and I said. Add in the director, and I'm going to show you where that is. He's got a strong director side. He's got a strong controller side, and he also has a secondary of achiever. So this is someone, if there was money, in this case, maybe not, that could be interested in some kind of asset. And real estate is oftentimes what that would be in franchising or a license or intellectual property or access to certain things. It could be stocks and bonds too, but oh, thank you for asking that question, Matt, because that was very relevant, especially for this person. So let's go back to these splatter dots. You want to think of these, what looks like COVID, right? These things that are poking out here. These are things that are askew or amiss in our candidate's life, things that are agitating him or causing some kind of pain. So freedom, challenge, knowledge, and effectiveness. So these are the freedom and challenge in particular are very high values. Number 2 and number 3. And then, of course, knowledge and effectiveness a little bit lower at 6 and 7. The higher the value, the more it affects our decisions, the more desire we have to have that thing. This is where we're going to spend our energy, our time, and our money. So we really need to know what those pain points or those askew values are so we can find a business that resolves that kind of pain. The way I recommend doing that is as you're speaking with your candidate, you basically have thanked them for taking this assessment because it really does help you understand them in a more intimate way and do your job in kind of narrowing down the franchises that are a great fit for him. But also then I would tell him who he is. You're a belonger achiever, right? There's a secondary of an achiever because that achiever number is not too far behind. And then I would ask him, according to Stanford research, where this logic comes from, where this science comes from, there's a few things that are highlighted. And I'm wondering if I could ask you some questions about that. So
Mhm.
it seems that freedom and challenge are really important to you. what do you mean by freedom? What does that look like for you in your future business? When have you had it? What do you want more of, kind of thing? I'd be asking, and then I'd be taking copious notes. With today in AI, you just turn on your AI note taker and it can do it for you, kind of thing. And same way, I would ask about challenge, knowledge and effectiveness also, but the two that are the heavy hitters here is if we don't take care of freedom and challenge, he's going to have a difficulty getting over his fear of taking risk until we solve those two problems, right?
Rebecca, I'm just kind of curious, the consultants you talk to that really use this tool successfully, are they getting Zoracle assessments really early in the process with candidates so they can have
Yeah.
these kinds of follow-up discussions from the results?
Yeah, the earlier you can do this, and of course we have subscriptions that are unlimited, so don't limit the number of assessments you run, are doing it as early as possible. Many of our consultants and brokers are using it as a lead generation process. So do you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Do you have what it takes to be a franchisee? Take our assessment to see if you do and what businesses will be a good fit. So it can be used as a lead generation tool, but to your point, Heath, it's really about knowing who that candidate is really quickly. So within the first one or two conversations, you can speak their language and you can get to those pain points quickly, and you can show them businesses where you're not just throwing, I call it throwing spaghetti on the ceiling and hoping it sticks. You're really going to get a business that is a good fit and that they can say, yes, too. Yeah. Let's move on to stage of growth with our candidate here.
Just real quick, just a real quick question, then I
Yeah,
didn't stall you there. If you go back up just a fraction.
of
So
course.
he has on his three key points for success, challenge, and freedom, I think, correct? Those
Right.
top three. And so here success is highlighted in blue, and the other two are your COVID dots. Is this saying that this is a disconnect between himself, what he put in, and the brand? Is that what this is saying? Why is this one, why are these disconnects, and um
So let me explain it a different way. And this is going to be a crazy way, and bear with me because it's kind of weird. But so within us is a hierarchy of values. Neurologically, those values will have a set of beliefs that we have about life and about business and about just about anything. So neurologically, there's a hierarchy. The value that's the highest, we're going to spend the most time, money, and energy on, right? So if success was a low value, he's not worried about success. Maybe something else is more important to him. And then as we go down that ladder, it has less and less effect, right? So we have to kind of pay attention. So let me give you a silly example. Let's assume, for example, there's a woman who is single, and her number one priority is success, contribution, creativity, in that order. And then maybe it's challenge, and then it's whatever. So that's her hierarchy. So success, contribution, creativity is number one and two and three. Her splatter dot will show up here as relationship. Let's say she decides now it's time, she wants a husband. So when she takes that assessment, relationship will come up and poke its head into that hierarchy. Relationship may have been number 20 on her list, where she was all about her career and money and success and power and control and creativity. All of those things in relationship was much less important. But now it becomes important and it slides up here, which then pushes down all the other values, all the other things that are important to her. So now she's going to the tanning salon to get a tan, and she's going to the gym and she's working out, and she's taking dance lessons, and she's going to bars. She's doing everything possible to find this relationship. And let's assume for just a second she finds Mr. Right and they get married. Within just a short period of time after that marriage, what will happen is this relationship, this splatter dot, this pain that she has, let's call it, loneliness, will now drop back into its rightful place. And all of a sudden now she's focused again on money and success and creativity and challenge and contribution. And her husband will say, honey, you've changed. This is not who I thought you were. She's not changed. She just put a value ahead of her true self and made him think, because she's spending time and energy into the relationship, when indeed that's not her highest priority. It's just her highest priority at that moment, right? For that period of time, and it'll slip back down. So that's what these are. These are pain points. We still know he's a belonger achiever, but he has freedom and challenge in there, saying, what about me? I need more freedom. I need more challenge. So we first and foremost need to resolve her pain points, right? Or in this case, Daniel's pain points, but we don't forget that he's still a belonger and achiever, because once those pain points are handled, that true belonger achiever will come out, right? So we're looking for a belonger achiever business, but also one that takes care of her pain of freedom and challenge. Does that make sense,
Yeah,
Matt?
I got it.
So the
Yes.
Sorry for the bad example.
No, the round success circle, that's what's most important. The biggest pain points kind of tied to that right now he's experiencing a lack of freedom and a lack of a challenge in where he's currently at. So the COVID looking ones are the pain points, and the rounded circles, the actual circles, those are just things that he ranks as most important to him.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And you want to learn all of the values around the belonger and achiever. And we can send you over those lists too. All right, let's step into the stages of growth. As you know, there are 5 predictable stages of growth. This is Neil Churchill's work where we borrow it. And within each stage of growth, what we at Zorakle are looking at, and we want you to look at, is the leadership or management style of that franchisor. What is their organizational structure? Meaning, how are they making decisions? Who's taking care of the franchisee? And we're also looking at how formal their systems are, how structured those systems are that they can give to the franchisee. And then we're looking at what is the major kind of goal or initiative that franchisor has. Are they looking for private equity money? Are they busy putting in best practices? Are they merging and acquiring businesses? What are they focused on? And then how involved is that concept originator? Depending on the answers to that, that will tell us where they are in their stage of growth, along with the most important piece, which is the crises, the pain points, or the challenges or growing pains that they're going through. So we want a franchisee that fits within that franchisor's current stage of growth. So with your candidate, we're going to tell you this candidate is going to be most comfortable in a stage 3 plug and play or stage 4 empire business. So a plug and play is just as it would suggest. Marketing is in place, strong training, strong support, great brand recognition, great brand equity. We got legal teams, we got compliance officers, we got coaches in the field helping those franchisees, we got local and regional marketing that is happening. We're working on ROI for our franchisee, a plug and play. And so that's usually a minimum of 100 units. And it can go up to 300, 400, 500 units. So in this case, Daniel fits really well in a plug and play. He also fits well in an empire. Empire is a franchisor that is probably going international by now. They're probably the number 1 or number 2 in their category, in their vertical. You'll recognize an Empire brand because it's a highly recognizable brand, and the franchisor is likely growing through mergers and acquisitions and conversions is how they're growing. So not a lot of organic growth, There's probably a lot of resales at this point that the franchisor has. So our candidate, Daniel, fits really well in a 3 or in a 4. So we want to avoid showing him those baby Zors, I call them, or stage 2 companies, which is usually 30 to 70. We're going to look for a minimum of 100 units, and then as big as we can find. But he's probably going to fit best in a 3 or an early 4.
And that seems to really line up with the whole belonger personality,
Yeah.
the safe, the established. Do you ever see assessments that it's like belonger, but then here they're a good fit for, it says they're a good fit for an emerging brand? Do you see those cross, or are these usually in alignment with what's at the top of the report too?
Well, because it's based on also the work style and the secondary of the
Mhm.
values, the answer is it's rare.
Okay.
It's rare that a belonger will be great in a startup, in an early stage,
Yeah.
less than 30 unit. In the rare occasion when you have an emulator belonger or belonger emulator, and a strong director promoter. If you
Mhm.
can blend those where that promoter can sell and market and be out in the marketplace and be comfortable being first to market, the
Yeah.
emulator is more capable of risk, right?
Mhm.
The belonger, will sell, sell, sell. Then if they have a emulator side and they have a promoter side and a director side, then maybe they'll score in a 2, but rarely ever in a 1 for
Okay.
belong.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Excellent
feel really
question.
good about the fact that the broker and I were looking at established service brands. I felt like I was on the right track the more we
You
looked
are.
at this profile.
Go, Jason. Go, Heath. Looking at culture, there are 4 primary cultures. This science, by the way, comes out of the University of Michigan. And Daniel is what we call a control culture. He fits well in a structured environment where there's strong coordination. We're dealing with effectiveness, efficiency, logistics. So it's all about stability. So this franchisor will be focusing on consistency in the deliverable, focusing on keeping those prices where it makes sense, maybe even developing the products themselves and shipping them. They'll probably have some patents in place or national accounts in place. So it's a franchisor that's got it together, right? And so our candidate, Daniel, fits well in that kind of culture because then he can focus on scaling his business. He's not going to have to come up with all the systems and processes and deliverables, and he's just going to follow the system and scale is what he's going to do. All right. Work style, he's almost 50-50 here as a director, thinker. And this marker, by the way, is what kind of flipped his wealth motto, is he does have a strong director thinker. So he's fast thinking in terms of once he has the numbers, he has the data, he will be decisive. Now, is he as fast as someone else? Probably not. We'll find out here in just a second when we look at his comfort zone. So he's likely kind of, normally we would see belongers be very slow. But because he's got this higher director side, his thinking process is going to be sped up a little bit, but we're still going to have to provide him a lot of information. Right? So don't forget to do that. Don't go too fast through the process either, because then he's going to feel sold rather than educated, especially since he had knowledge as one of his splatter dots. So we want to make sure he gets all the knowledge that he's looking for.
So does this, the fast paced and quick decision making, does that kind of tell you that he's not going to be the best fit for brands where the product or service they're providing, those contracts take a long time to put together and they're really
Wow.
stretched out? Or So like a simple service brand where, hey, here's the bid. This is the service we provide. You know, your gutters are filthy. We can clean those for you. Bang, bang, like quick
Wow.
transaction.
Hey, that's brilliant. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Okay.
Um, I hadn't thought of it in that way, but yeah, he's not going to have the patience to have a 6-month sales cycle. It needs to
Yeah.
be, we have a conversation with someone, which then may also go to what Matt says. Will they have the patience for the build out of a retail business and
Yeah.
that kind of thing?
Huh.
Yeah, excellent point.
Interesting.
Under competencies, this is the work of Gallup Research. Here, we're looking at highest and best use of Daniel's talent. So, in other words, he may have really good marketing skills, but based on this, how he answered the questions, it's not the best use of his time and energy.
Mm.
He's much better at the financial side. He's much better at the technical side. He's much better at the managing of people side. So he may say, "Hey, wait, I was in sales and marketing." Yeah, but you're really more talented here. So let's find a business where a lot of that marketing is taken off of your shoulders,
Mm.
where the social media is done by the franchise or where the advertisements on TV are done by the franchise. Find something where the business is being driven to you, you're managing people, you're taking care of customers, you're overlooking the strategy and the operations side of the business, where you control the cash generating assets, whether those are human assets, as in the management piece, or financial assets, or tangible assets, like a contract or a license or exclusive relationship in the marketplace, or real estate, right? It could be just about anything as long as he gets to control that cash. And then going here, this is kind of self-explanatory. If our candidate, Daniel, has to do the sales, the best type of sales he can do is a consultative sale. Obviously, we don't want him doing that full time because he's really better at the operations, but he is a good salesperson. He can close deals, so we're not worried about that. We do want him solving a problem. Now, it doesn't have to be, solve world hunger or rescue the spotted owl kind of solution, but it does need to be something where he's solving a problem. He'll make a great single unit franchisee. So that simply means he wants to have unlimited possibility by only having one location, and that location could be his home. Here's some needs and wants. A lot of this we've already talked about. Service businesses are great for who he is. Repeat customers are great. We want him to have regular hours. We don't want him in an emergency service type of business where he
Mhm.
has to go out at midnight. It could be a home-based business. Because he's so good with people, a few employees that he can keep for a long time is going to be great. We talked about tangible products and services, historically proven systems, practical problem-solving services. And of course, he probably will at some point bring his spouse or his family into the business.
Would you say that section tells you the most about which categories of brands might be the best
Yeah,
fit? Okay.
it really does. And it's so funny because so often we overlook it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, whatever. And maybe it's the way we designed it. It's in checklists, but where everything else is kind of sexy, but this is kind of plain. Uh, let's look at the meta programs, which are super, super powerful. So, as we expected, his comfort zone is medium. So even though he's a pretty fast decision maker for a belonger, he is not in that large or extra large category. He's a medium comfort zone, meaning surrounding that comfort zone is what I call a wall of fear, right? And to get him out of that comfort zone into the curiosity zone or the learning zone or the due diligence zone. We have to get him over any of his pain points and fears. In this case, he has a medium comfort zone. So motivating him, even though he's a belonger, is not going to be as hard as someone who has a large or extra large comfort zone. Keep in mind, the smaller the comfort zone, the faster the decision. You're going to feel pain faster, and you're going to feel pleasure faster. So with a medium, then what Jason has to do with this candidate is find ways to get him over that wall of fear by using a carrot and by using a stick. Some of us are purely just carrot related, meaning show me how my future is going to be blessed and different than where I am currently. Or we use fire or stick. We show them how if they stay where they are and continue to do what they're doing, there's going to be more and more and more and more pain. So in this case, for Daniel, we want to apply both the carrot and the stick. He's motivated by both. When you're dealing with this, we always tell you what to leverage as a carrot. The carrot is show him success in the way that he envisions success. Success for Matt and for myself might be sipping margaritas in Bora Bora, right? And that might be what success is. For someone else, for Daniel, it might be leaving a legacy or certain income, right? So we have to find out what success means to him. And of course, we already talked about freedom and challenge. If we can really understand what these carrots are, what these values are, the way he describes them, what does freedom look like? What does challenge look like? You know, again, it's going to be different for one person over another person. So we're going to dangle that carrot and show him how he's going to have that in the future. And then when we're using this stick, you can still use the values and show them how they're not going to have that if they stay where they are. But we also tell you the top 3 fears that this individual has. So that is the stick. So the fear, we actually use the word safety, but it's safety comes from, in other words, we relieve fear by showing them that doing something will allow them to be better at providing for their family. Their biggest fear is that they'll be separated from their family and that they won't be able to provide for their family, that in some way they'll put their family at risk. So safety for this candidate comes from showing them how he's going to be with his family more and he's going to be able to provide more, right? And staying where he is, there's a lid to that, right? And also he's got a fear of financial insecurity. So, you know, you're going to show him ways where that's not going to happen, right? And or you're going to show him how unstable and financially insecure he currently is and will continue to be. Yep. Any comments on that, Heath, from your
No,
perspective?
that's a great way to wrap up the results, I think, because it's okay. Here's what I know about them. Now, what's my method of moving them through this process?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because it's almost the same. There's so many times this whole avoiding financial security, they're in this scenario, but they're unwilling to take the step to avoid that. So they just stay in the same continual rat race. And so this avoidance of financial security is exactly what's keeping them in their job.
Yes. Yes. So, and that's that comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So the fear is I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. I'm going to keep the job. I'm going to keep the insurance, blah, 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 blah. If I step over that, then I might not be able to do that because this is an unknown, which
Yeah.
is why that medium comfort zone. But to get them out of it, you have to leverage it. You have to put fire. Listen, are you providing in the way you want? Are your children going to be able to go to the colleges they desire? Are you going to be able to retire? Right? So we're going to put fire under them, but the very thing they're afraid of, we're going to like.
Yeah.
Fear is a motivator, values are a motivator. Right? So oftentimes we try to avoid the fear.
Yeah, what becomes more critical then in the thought process, providing or are they willing to hold off from providing because of their fear of insecurity? It's kind
Yes,
of, those are the same, and it's really what puts people from making the decision.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to help him by showing him how things are going to be better in the future, right? And how this business will allow him to provide. Or you're going to introduce him to financial products that can help him through those fears, right? You're going to walk him through all of that. But you're right, it's what's holding him back. I wanted to point out in our short time we have still two things that are a little unusual here that Jason is going to want to pay attention to when he's working with this candidate. Up here, the decision-making strategy. This is a mental filter, how Daniel processes information and comes up with a decision. And this kind of goes back to what Matt was saying too. He is an optional decision maker. So he is going to be exploring other options, including keeping his own job or getting another job, right? That's always going to be on the table for him. So we might be showing him 3 or 4 great options, good fit options, but because he thinks optionally, it's like he has a set of glasses on that is always asking, is there a better one? Is there a better one? Is there a better one? So you show him 3 perfect ones, and he's going to still be on the internet looking things up and talking to his friends and, asking you, what else do you have? What else do you have? What else do you have? Optional decision makers, sometimes we'll simply make a split-second decision like, okay, I give up, I'll choose this one, right? It'll just be out of desperation. Or they will spin and spin and spin and not be able to make a decision, because it's kind of like going back to our dating situation again. It's kind of like a man who decides that leggy blonde is exactly what he wants. And then he spends a few months with her, and then he goes, you know what, that cute little brunette, that petite brunette, she's kind of cool too. And then he wanders over in that direction. And he's still saying, is there a better one? Is there a better one? And next minute he's deciding it's that fiery little redhead. And so there's always this better one. There's this better one.
Mhm.
And that's how he's making a decision. So,
I never had those choices.
Rebecca, does that mean does that tell the broker at all, like when I'm presenting brands, I want to present more than I typically would? Or just to keep in mind his psychological makeup is, even though, he's really interested in this brand, his mind's telling him to always keep his options open.
yes, it's just a filter. It's kind of like if you want a Ferrari,
Yeah.
you're always going to see Ferraris on the road, right? Even though you didn't notice them before you wanted one, kind
Mhm.
of thing. Is there a better one? Is there a cooler one? Is there,
Yeah.
a more fun one? Is there always a better one? So I'm going to show you a quick solution. I want to point out one other thing. He's also what we call a difference-oriented, meaning when he looks at in relationship to one another, whether it's 2 women or 3 women, or it's 3 businesses, he's always going to look for how they are different. If you don't
Oh,
point
okay.
out how it's different, he's going to have a hard time. So you either point it out or you have him look for it. I'm going to show you these 3 businesses, and I want you to come back with 6 bullet points that shows how they're different from one another, and maybe even give them some options. So here's what I would do, and I'm going to actually pull up an old presentation I have, and tell me that you're seeing this. Are you seeing putting it all together?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Um, so let me see if I can't get to this.
Are you trying to make it full screen?
All right, here we go. Yeah, I'm trying to open it up. All right, perfect, from current slide. So here's what I would do with an optional in particular. They are going to go all over the place, especially if they're also difference oriented. And then he has this medium comfort zone on top of things. So we're going to have to squish that comfort zone down a little bit to help him. Otherwise, it's going to drag out and he's going to wander off. So I would list the criteria. I would literally ask him, how will you know when you have found the right business? Record it, write it down. Make a list out of it. I will know it's the right business when I don't have to work with 18-year-olds, right? I want to work with skilled employees. I will know it's the right business when I don't have to invest more than $150,000. Whatever it is, write it down. I would also then take the assessment and go, okay, here's your values, here's your stage of growth, here's your culture. So we're looking for a company that's a stage 3 and 4, right, in his case. And then I would literally do one company compared to the next and say, okay, let's look at your criteria, let's look at your assessment, and look where you are, right? So I would take the candidate over here on the right, you'll see the prospect, and you'll see company A is an emulator concept. So all 3 companies are a perfect fit. He fits into a stage 2 and a 3. 2 of the companies are stage 2 and 3. He fits really well in a compete culture. 2 of the 3 are compete culture. He's a director. None of the companies are looking for a director. They're looking for a promoter. So I would literally list it out, and most importantly, his own criteria. If you don't do this, he's every other day going to change his mind about what's important. One minute it's, I want to be able to do it out of my house. The next minute is, I want to, you know what, if I can get real estate, that's going to be cool. The next minute is, I really like, something that is internet based. He will change his mind on a regular basis unless we pull that comfort zone in. We address his optional side by finding the exact criteria. And we show him black and white the difference. Find the differences, and you can take notes right while you're talking to him. You're going to do more deals. All right. All right, my friend. Any thoughts, comments, questions on that?
I thought that was really great. And it just kind of shows how once you get through the full report, you really have everything you need to know outside of specific financials and things you can get from, some of the data in the CQ. But this tells you a lot about things under the surface that, they probably wouldn't discover about themselves. So I think it all makes sense how it ties in. And it really gives you a lot of information. And I see a lot of information that would be very valuable from a franchisor's perspective if a broker is introducing this candidate and giving them a heads up on these things. Like, just because they're looking at multiple options doesn't mean they're not interested. That's just his personality. He's really going to want to hear about your differentiators. That's very important to him. Like, you can really tee it up for the franchisor with the results you get from this assessment. And that makes everybody happy, I think, in the
Hallelujah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll get the right franchisee, you'll do more deals, and you'll do them faster by just understanding how it all comes together.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca, I really like that last slide. That really is a powerful tool to use, not necessarily for anyone, whether or not they're an optional decision maker or anyone else, but great tool.
Yeah.
I've got to run to another meeting. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Teddy.
Thanks so
We'll see
much,
you
Rebecca.
soon.
Thanks, guys. Next
So,
next time we'll tease the new assessment coming up. So
all right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good
Thanks.
weekend.
Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.